Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Sorry I haven't done a video for a while, but the biggest challenge I'm having now, to be honest with you, is parts, getting parts up here. The electronics part 3, which is where the timing circuit comes in, it took almost 3 weeks to get that circuit. I've got it now, so I'm going to be videoing that. As far as the doors, I've done all of the repairs on the inside. As I mentioned earlier, there was rust in the bottom corner here. Blew all this out, cleaned it all out. Now, as far as inside the door then, so of course I've been in here with a brush, I've been in here with my little portable spray gun, I've been in here with my air gun, trying to get all the garbage out of this door that's accumulated over the last 50 years. And then what I did is I hit the inside with rust inverter, right? So of course any place there was a surface rust now, we've sealed that. I then went in obviously with my rust protectors, and then finally a sealing of black rust paint on all of the surfaces, even backwards. That's why we have some runs going on. But again, that's where the panel covers, so I don't really care. But basically all of the material has now been stripped. Obviously I have the signal louvers here as well, so I'll be able to hit them as well. So just want to put a coat of paint on everything because moisture eventually will get a surface rust and then you're cleaning the rust again. So I'm going to be hitting it with 2K, but that'll be this afternoon. Let's go and take a look at the electronics. So the timer I'm talking about is this timer here. I highly recommend it. It has over 27 different types of timing circuits that are programmable. And what I mean by that is you can have it so that, in my case, I want it so that when the trigger senses power, the timer activates and will keep an accessory on for a certain amount of time. And I can program how long that time is, right? In my case, it's going to be about 30 seconds, I'm thinking. Now, before I use the timer circuit, I have to program it. I have to tell it which of the many different variations I want to use. I have to tell it how long I want it to wait, again, my 30 seconds. And then I also have to tell it what type of trigger I'm using, because it's so selective that the trigger I'm using can be either a positive, it can be a negative, it can also be a switch between medium and high voltages. So you can actually have a drop of voltage be detected as a trigger. So again, if you're going to use any circuitry to time something, or you need something to stay on, or a delay, and again, look at all of the different options here. This timing circuit is fantastic. What I've done is I've simply placed the circuit now into one of my test strips. So I have, obviously, the red is power, the black is going to a separate ground block, the green and the white are the programming circuits. So what I've done is I've got them up here to just a couple of switches, so I can press green or sorry, white or green, or press them at the same time, and that is how you program it in the first place. So I'm all set, ready to go. I have a master switch that I can turn on and off the power to it. All right, this is always the fun part, right? So press and hold green and white and power on. So you see my light has come on, I release green and white, and the light comes on and shuts off. So that is letting me know that it's in program mode. Again, you have to read the manual. So what I'm going to do now is W for duration. So all I'm going to do is press the W button, and I'm actually going to watch my clock as it counts. There we go. And I'm holding it. There's 2 seconds, 3, 4. So sorry about this one. It's probably going to be a little boring while I do this. There's 10 seconds. And wait for it. There's 20 seconds. Boy, that really takes a long time when you're waiting for something, doesn't it? And here we come, up to 30 seconds. All right, so there's 30 seconds I held that. Then it says press them both at the same time, which I did and released. And now I have to go white for 14 times to get to the event when I want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then now the green to get to the high trigger event. 1, 2. That's it. Power it off. Unit should be programmed. Okay, like I said, so welcome back. I've really done nothing, right? I've not touched anything. The only thing is this trigger wire now, if I give it 12 volts positive, which I've got through this, right? I've got the 12 volts going into the unit. If I take this then and touch it here, that should trigger my positive event on the blue line. And the bulb should come on and stay on for 30 seconds and then go out. I mean, fairly straightforward. Let's find out. So let's power on the unit. Now you get no indication at all, right? Remember before when I was in program mode, that came on. It doesn't now, right? So it's just simply powered on. Let's take a high signal and give it a high. There it is. So the high trigger, which will be a door open event, or as you guys know, my alarm system, which is sitting right there, which is going to be the next thing I'm going to bench, will be that this is then going to keep this light, get this light to come on, because the alarm system has remotes. So I'll be able to approach the car, unlock the car, which will also deactivate the alarm, which will also send a trigger event, which will then turn on the interior lights, turn on the fog lights, so that I can see where I'm going. If it's nighttime, it'll light my path. But like I said, I guess I talked too much. I guess that was 30 seconds. So I guess we've had a valid test. That was quick. I was doing some thinking. 30 seconds. Well, worst case scenario, if the lights go out as I'm approaching the vehicle, all I have to do is disarm the alarm system again, right? Because by disarming it again, the system will simply receive it. It'll re-unlock the doors, right? Because it also unlocks the doors, which will also send the trigger event. So as I mentioned, I'm going to leave it at 30 seconds. That way there, when I just use it normally, 30 seconds is normal from that perspective. And if I ever need to extend it and have them stay on longer, I just use the remote to refire a trigger event, which will then, of course, relight it for 30 seconds. So I'm done with the programming. What I'm going to be doing now is talking about how we're going to isolate the circuits by introducing a relay, actually two. And then at the same time, I'm going to probably start assembling this into a little waterproof box, because quite literally, you know, it's going to now mount in the car, and I'm going to have wires coming out of it, and those wires are going to have to be marked, which are going to be, you know, feed for the fogs, feed for the interior lights, trigger wire, and I might even add another circuit in here, and that circuit is so I can disable this entire unit with the key, and that is so that when the key does hit the ignition and the key is turned into the on position, not the accessories, but the on position, so I'm going to use the trigger for the ignition wire, it shuts the box down. And that way there, as I said before, when the car is running, the box is totally disabled, because why would I need the delays on anything? Everything else is now going to be run by the car. So, as I said, a circuit to disable the whole thing when the key is in the on position, and then two circuits separate, one for the fogs, one for the interior lights. So let's get at it. So as I mentioned, right, we're going to have, obviously there's going to be positive coming into the switch. So the timer itself needs to hook up to a positive line. It also then needs a ground, right? Now there's going to be a trigger, which is the blue wire, and what that means is that if it receives a plus 12 pulse, it will then activate the timer. The timer then really is just a load, which is now going to be 12 volts, right? So it's just going to throw 12 volts down the load line. So what I'm going to need to do is split that into two, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a relay on both of those, right? And that way what I'm going to do is I can then bring in, obviously, power into the relay, and then on the normally open circuit, we will then feed the fogs, and then of course I'm going to bring in 12 volts here, and then on the normally open I'm going to feed the interior. So I'm going to have to wire two relays. both of them connected to the normally open side, and that way there, when the load fires the relay on both of these, the wipers make contact with the normally open circuit, and 12 volts is now delivered down that circuit, and that will then fire off the interior lights and the fog lights. The good news is that those are two separate circuits. The only thing in common they have is what's driving the electromagnet, which means I'm not going to get any feedback from the fog lights, the power coming back and actually hitting the interior. Also, a relay is a great way to isolate the load on this little timer. Now this timer has a 10 amp load. Now my headlights are going to be LED, or the fog lights, but even then they're probably going to draw somewhere in the 6 to 7 amps, right? Even LEDs draw power. And then the interior lights are LED as well, but even if that doesn't make it to 10, I'm coming awfully close to the limit of the timer's current flow. So it's better to always put a relay to drive the actual load, and the timer circuit to send 12 volts to simply energize the relay. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on the box. I'm going to be putting so really I'm going to take this, a couple of these, and stuff them in here, and have some wires coming out that will be labeled so I know which ones are coming in and which ones are coming out. I'm not going to bore you with that, but I'll show you the finished product. Well, welcome to the end of part 3A. And why do I say that? Because what I've done now is I've created a switch box. So inside of this box is the timer circuit. Obviously inside this box is all the wiring, because what I've done is I've taken the harnesses for the 3 relays and mounted them up underneath and cut them through, and then epoxied them to the lid. So now I can switch these out if necessary. If they fail, I can just unplug them and plug a new one in. The way the box works now is very simple. We have power coming in, which of course feeds the timer circuit, but at the same time now I brought a heavy gauge wire in, which is also feeding the output of these relays. So that timer circuit is no longer feeding the load. All that timer circuit is doing is activating these 2 relays. The load that comes out of these 2 yellow lines is actually being fed by this big 12 gauge line, and now I don't have to worry. So if we take a trigger event, there's a trigger event. We've got the light on, and again, as I said, over here, if I take this and I plug it into the other line, I've got power as well. So it doesn't matter which one I do, but they are separate. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, I have to have 2 separate relays running 2 separate lines, because I can't have them cross-contaminate each other. I can't turn the interior lights on and have the fogs come on, or I can't turn the fogs on and have the interior lights come on. This way here, they're 2 separate circuits. Any power that's going to be fed to this line or any power that's going to be fed to the other line is not going to interrupt anything. And of course, finally, that was 30 seconds of talking. Let's reactivate the line. The last line operates this relay, and what it does is it interrupts the other relays. So in fact, this is now, I'm going to turn the key on. There, I turn the key on. It deactivates the entire timer. And what I've got now is I got a timer that's shut down, and the car is going to run like a normal car, right? Headlights and fog lights and interior lights are all totally separate from this. So like I said, hope you enjoyed that. I will be back because we will be going to the car alarm now and trying to figure out how to integrate the car alarm into this, so that when I use the fobs to unlock and lock the car, I also get this to lock and unlock as well. Anyways, everyone, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back soon.